All right, today I'm going to show you how to log into Turnitin and then how to create a class and then just give you a little tour of what it looks like once you've created a class and how to make assignments. So you'll want to go to Turnitin.com. When you get there, you shouldn't have to create an account because the school has a subscription and they've already used your email address and your email password to make you an account. So you should be able to go to log in and enter in your SMCSC email and then your SMCSC password. So now I'm going to go ahead and log in. And when you log in, you'll have a home page just like this. However, you won't see a class because you haven't made one yet. But once you do make your classes, this is kind of your class hub. This is where you see all your classes listed and you can get to certain things from here. This green button is what you're going to want to press when you want to add a class. So once you click on add class, it's going to ask you the class type. Just keep it at standard. Class name, so this is where you might want to differentiate. If you have English 9 period 1 and then just have separate classes like that. Password you get to pick. So unlike some other sites where they automatically give you an enrollment password, this site lets you make it. So you might keep it simple. You might keep it English 9-1 or just English 9. So that's up to you how you want to do it, whatever works. You could do your last name and then the period number. So that's for you to decide. I'm just going to do English 9-1. Subject area, so obviously you don't have to be an English class to use Turnitin. So maybe you're a political science class. And then you've got freshman. Class start date, it automatically just uses today's date. So when you create the class, it puts that in, you can't change that. And then the end date. So if you just want to use this with this class for this semester, then you can go to May, and I think the 26th is their last day. To be safe, if you want to extend it out to maybe the 31st, just, in case we have snow days, knock on wood. And then you press submit. So it says here, class created, congratulations, yada, yada, yada. If you like students to enroll themselves in this class, they will need both the enrollment password you have chosen and the class ID generated by Turnitin. So if you're doing this today, come Monday, you'll want to give your students the class ID and then password, or whenever it is they have access to computers. Now, the class ID is also on your dashboard here. So if you forget your class ID, it's no big deal. Right here, it tells me the ID of my English 9 period 1 and the ID of my practice class. So that's how you make a class. After you make a class, I'm sure the next logical step would be to create an assignment where students can turn in their paper. So if we go into our English 9 period 1, right now you don't have any submitted papers because you don't have an assignment. So over here, you'll see add assignment. So this is just a really quick way to create an assignment for students to turn in. It's going to ask you for a title. So maybe it is World War I perspective paper. Point value, 50 points. Start date. So if you don't know what they mean by this, you can hover over that question mark. This is the date and time students can begin submitting the assignment. So if you're going to assign it on Monday, but you don't want them submitting it till Wednesday, then that's, what you can pick here. They can't submit it until Wednesday. The due date is, maybe we'll say Friday. So they have 3 days to turn it in. And then the post date, this is the date that students can start viewing your comments and grades. So you might wait until Saturday, Monday. I guess it depends on when you think you'll start grading them. So if you plan on grading them over the weekend, maybe by Monday, they can start viewing their grade. Here you can check what kind of file type you want to allow. I recommend keeping it on this default one. Allow only file types that Turnitin can check for originality. So if a big concern of yours is plagiarism, then just keep it checked. That way, no matter what file type, it'll only accept the ones it can check for being original and for plagiarism. And down here is optional settings. So this is where you can get really nitty gritty, and it's just up to you. If it's just a simple place for kids to turn it in, then I would just stick to this up here. But if you want to get pretty detailed, like allow submissions after the due date. Maybe you want them to be able to turn it in late. Generate originality reports for submissions. So this is automatically on yes. So you'd only, if you did this, if you opened up these options, it's because you want to change this to no. Generate originality reports for student submissions. So immediately. So after they've turned it in, they get an originality report. So it's just telling them, hey, this is how original your paper is. Immediately can overwrite reports until due date on due date. So if they're allowed multiple submissions, then maybe you do have it on the first report, and then it can update. So each report they turn in, it'll change. So that's up to you. Exclude bibliographic materials from similarity index. So you might say, yeah, I don't care if they all have similar, bibliographies. It's a default no, though. So again, you can kind of read through here. Allow students to see the report, submit papers to the standard paper repository, which is just like turning it in, just the standard turn it in place. And then grade mark, maybe you have a rubric you want to attach to your paper. Here they automatically have Common Core standards you can attach, and you can comment using those. So that's up to you. And then enable grammar checking. So here, when this setting is enabled, submissions viewed within GradeMark will also contain feedback marks for grammar and other writing traits. So basically, ETS, which is the same company that does the iStep and the GRE and Praxis and college, all that stuff, they have a way to check grammar just kind of systematically. So it's mechanically, it's not a person, it's just there is a program that goes through and checks. That might be a nice place to start. So if you don't want to hover over papers and grade all the grammar, and maybe grammar is not uber important either, and you'd rather just have this graded, maybe that's not your focus with the paper. It might be nice to enable that. So we're saying high school level, maybe if you want to use it in middle school, so on and so forth. We want the U.S. English Dictionary, and then categories enabled by default. So these are what they're checking for. Now, I'm guessing they don't have spelling checks because almost every program used to write papers has a spell check. So students should be using the spell check regardless. But if you want to check for spelling, then you can change that as well. And then here it's just like, hey, if these are your options you want to use in the future, click this and it allows all of this to be just your default setting. So if you think this is stuff you're going to choose next time, then yeah, I would check that and make sure it's set up like that for next time. So then I press submit, and there we go. English 9 period 1. Here's the first assignment, World War I perspective paper. Here's the start date, the due date, the post date, status, who's submitted, and actions. I can view and see who's submitted it and what their status is. But again, I don't have students and no one's turned it in yet. So let's say you assign your paper, kids get into your class, they'll see this as an assignment. So when they're ready to turn it in, they'll come in here and click it and submit their paper. So what you would do next is you would come in here and you would click the class that you're wanting to um, grade, and then you would click on the view. There's also more actions here. You can delete it, submit it, edit it, but you would view it, and then from here you would be able to see all the students, hence author, and all their papers, and then you would get to grade it, which we can discuss next. So there's your basic Turnitin, logging in, creating a class, and creating an assignment.